Rise up!
This is the Rise Up See Red podcast, all about the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL, featuring insider and outsider perspectives. Enjoy the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Now here are your hosts, Jess Root and Seth Cox.
Hello, Arizona Cardinals fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the Rise Up See Red podcast, the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. I'm your host, Jess Root from CardsWire.com, the USA Today NFL wire site that covers, of course, your Arizona Cardinals. And joining me for episode 683 is Seth Cox from RevengeOfTheBirds.com, as we are fully into training camp. We are in the first full week. As teams reported, the Cardinals reported last week. When we recorded last time, they had only reported, they hadn't done their conditioning. And so we get to react to initial guys who came in not healthy. There's been a season-ending injury. There's been other takeaways. And this is, I feel, Seth, that training camp so far has been pretty, aside from the injury front, pretty boring. Like, there's nothing super telling from what I have gleaned from what people have said who have been there. I am scheduled to attend. I do have tickets to their red and white practice on Saturday. Whether I go or not, we'll see how that goes, so I can get some eyeballs on there, at least from the stands for the first time ever. But like for you, Seth, so far, has training camp been anything revealing at all?
There's been a couple little nuances that you've seen. Some of it's just, schematics. You're seeing guys get deployed in different ways. Again, will it be something that we see in season? You sure hope so, right? But I thought, there was the play today that's getting passed around the interwebs. Marvin Harrison Jr. on a deep out route on what it looks like about a 3rd and plus, so probably 7+. And he makes a spectacular diving catch, and everybody cheers. And while that's highly important and something that is good to see, what's more important to me and what I liked about the rep overall was that you saw him lined up in the slot, right? So they're in a trips formation. They motion Elijah Higgins, it looks like, into the interior slot, but now Marvin is in the slot with Michael Wilson outside, and they're in like a tight trips bunch set. And again, little wrinkles, but yeah, for the most part, it's workmanlike, right? It's year 3 of the system, both offensively and defensively, and it seems like the reps, the understanding, the growth is all happening in a positive light.
Yeah, and they got the pads on Monday for the first time, and the defense kind of overtook the offense in that first practice, but things evened out on Tuesday.
That's never uncommon,
You're right.
Even for teams that are returning almost everybody, right? Like, it's just defense is always a little, because offense is so much about timing, right? And is a guy at the spot he's supposed to be, whereas defense, you're allowed to just kind of play a little bit, and it makes it a little more easy. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. This is what good camps tend to look like now, right? There's not a lot of, like you said, to glean from day to day. Like, you see standout players, as you've mentioned, but like, for the most part, it's just very much like, hey, we're in practice mode.
So let's start off. What I want to do is, because we missed this, now when the show when I published the show, this announcement already came out, and so we had 3 players placed on the PUP list. or a physically unable to perform list, which is what you do at the start of camp. This is the reserve. This is the list that you place a player on who had a football related injury, and it just gives them that designation. They are not cleared to practice. They cannot practice, and they are allowed to come off of that list at any time, but that initial designation opens a possible roster of flexibility if they're not healthy when it comes for the 53-man roster. And for all three guys, there are different levels of concern for me. So BJ Ojulari, who's coming back from an ACL tear, he was placed on PUP. Walter Nolen, the first-round pick, suffered a calf injury training sometime at the facility, sometime before training camp. He lands on PUP. And Bilal Nichols, who in week 6 last season suffered a neck injury that ended his season, he begins training camp on PUP. And I have different levels of concern for each guy. And honestly, I don't like either. I don't like any of the three, other than it answers a couple of questions when it comes to rostering the defensive line when roster cuts come around. Let's talk Walter Nolen first, because this we seem to have a curse on our first round defensive lineman, as Darius Robinson suffered a calf injury after the preseason was over, but before the season, and then was only able to play 6 games last year. But the report came out that, well, he started on PUP, and so what we learned was, okay, it was something that happened in training, and it was with the team, which is why he's on PUP instead of NFI, non-football injury. And Jonathan Gannon simply said he's going to miss some time. That never tells us anything. And Ian Rappaport came out and said that he will miss most of, if not all of training camp. And I want to get your thoughts on that first. Like, how concerned are you about Nolen's injury and how he's starting training camp on PUP?
I mean, it's obviously disappointing. We saw Darius Robinson, and he had an outlying circumstance post injury, right? His mother passed away, and it really affected him mentally and his ability to get back from the injury. So let's hope, for a number of reasons, that Walter doesn't have that. But Nolen needs to be out there. It's something that we talked about it, right? Like, especially rookie interior defensive linemen, 40% of snaps is usually kind of their ceiling. You might see 50% from guys, but it's rare to see them play more. And with the Cardinals' depth and what they have, we were thinking maybe 30-35% in year one, right? Like, it wasn't a huge pressing need unless he was just so unstoppable that you're like, oh, we got to get this guy on the field more. So from that perspective, it's not a concern, but it's always a concern when you're just talking about a guy that needs reps, that needs practice time, because as we know, Dalvin Tomlinson and Calais Campbell, they're the opposite, right? They don't need that anymore. They need downtime, right? they need yes. They need to be healthy for the games, and so losing him for what is likely an extended, if not all, of training camp. And now we do have to be very, very cognizant of Jonathan Gannon. And what I mean by that is the idea of camp doesn't mean we're talking about until the season starts. Remember, training camp technically ends like 8-6, 8-7. So, and then they go into the preseason. So you're out of training camp and you're into practices. So again, there's some, fun with words that you can glean from things like if he does come back a little sooner or things of that nature. But if it is an extended amount of time and we're talking till late August, that's not ideal, I guess, is the best way to put it, right?
And that's what I like. My belief, my gut on this. This basically washes out his rookie season, because if he's and based on the type of injury, it probably is that he's not going to be for training. He's not going to play in the preseason, which means he's not going to get any live reps. He's not going to get any live reps in the preseason. And well, one, if he were healthy enough to come back and practice right at the beginning, he's still not ready to play. And my belief is that really the only option that this is going to happen, I bet this is what happens, because they're just kind of mum on it, is that he's going to be out the entirety of the preseason. They'll put him on PUP to start the year. He'll miss 4 to 6 weeks, and then he will ease into that. And then, because that way, once you designate him, you've got basically you've got from week 4 to week 9 to decide what to do with him, and allow him to get some of those full contact reps to then contribute down the season. Much like how it went for BJ Ojulari his rookie season. When a rookie misses, especially a trenches guy, if you don't get those full contact reps, your rookie year is basically washed. Much like Darius Robinson's rookie year was washed, but he was healthy until right before the season. But though honestly, that rostering will make it so LJ Collier makes sense on the roster. As I did my initial 53-man roster projection, and I predict that Nolen is going to start the season on the regular season PUP, which means he won't count towards the 53 at any point. And the way Collier's contract is set up, he has $750,000 in salary guarantees. Those will be fully paid out by after week 7. And so, like, he will have been paid about $756,000 through week 7. And if that's about the time that Nolen comes back, he's a no-cost cut. Although, well, actually, that's not true, because he's a vested veteran, and therefore he'd be guaranteed the rest of his money. The contract,
he's going to get paid no matter what.
Yeah, but he would also be a guy that you could practice squad. Probably he probably won't get picked up anywhere. But that said, what we were talking about with the defensive line in our last show, like, what do you do with the numbers? The numbers are kind of the numbers are playing themselves out. I think that Nolen won't start the season on the roster, which brings us to not Ojulari, but Bilal Nichols. This is what I'm like, oh, this is interesting, because this is a neck injury in week 6, and he's still not ready to practice.
Yeah, you wonder if it's a nerve impingement at this point, right?
And that tells me, you know what this tells me? He's done. He's done. Yeah. Like, if it hasn't made progress to this point, he's probably not going to be able to play. But why would he, like maybe he will not be able to play football anymore? And in that case, well, why wouldn't he retire? Well, why would he retire when he's got a fully guaranteed salary? So as of right now, I project Bilal Nichols is not going. He'll be on injured reserve, or he won't play this year. And Nolen is out, and that solves the defensive line mystery. Then the 6 guys, because they have 8 that you're like, they're going to be on the roster, but you're only going to keep 6 or 7. Now they only got 6. So you got 6 guys now. So that takes care of that. But what's your take on Nichols? Because a neck injury that has made that he's still not cleared for, because other players we've had like neck injuries. I remember Adrian Peterson's season ended. He was able to play the next year. We've seen other players who had neck injuries, and they were concerns, but they were able to practice. They were cleared by August and September. That wasn't a deal. And so my gut on this one is, well, just quietly, Nichols is a loss. That's a sunk cost, because he's hurt, and it wouldn't make financial sense for him to retire, because he's guaranteed the money. If he retires, he walks away from it, and he basically continues to try and come back. And then next year, the Cardinals would cut him anyway.
Right, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. But yeah, it's like you said, just not ideal. And the fact that it is, it is on the football injury list, it means like the Cardinals have really no recourse.
No, this is not like Sean Murphy Bunting tearing his ACL playing basketball or whatever. They where they can choose not to pay him. These guys go like Nichols happened at a game, Nolen happened during training, so the Cardinals are on the hook. They're on the hook for those. Now, another one's like I'm not particularly. I'm a little bit concerned about BJ Ojulari. His ACL tear was a year ago, and he's still not back. We just saw Will Hernandez. He tore his ACL in week 5, a 320-pound man who is now cleared 9 months later. 9 to 10 months is kind of like an August, or I believe it was late July. A late July, early August ACL tear should be cleared, 100% cleared for practice 12 months later in almost any case that we've seen, right?
Yeah, and again, especially for, like you said, size, right? Like a guy like Will Hernandez, size and age, coming back and getting cleared. That's encouraging. Obviously, he's not with the team at this moment. We're not going to say he's not going to be with the team, but he's not with the team this moment. But having a guy like BJ Ojulari, who's now had multiple knee injuries, that's had long rehabs, and you still haven't seen him back, it's that's kind of discouraging.
That's what it is for me. It's discouraging because we will say, because we've talked about it last week, it's like the Cardinals appear to have, like, they moved on, like they're not going to count on him. Like they weren't set, like last year coming into year 2, it was all about Ojulari being a double-digit sack guy. Like he was the guy that was supposed to be the dominant pass rusher on that team. Then he tears his ACL, things go to poop. But, what do they do since then? They traded for Baron Browning. They re-signed Baron Browning. They extended Zaven Collins. They signed Josh Sweat, and they drafted Jordan Birch.
So not much.
And so they're looking at Ojulari as, will come back, but we're not counting on. Like they basically moved on, and if he gives anything, that's great. But doesn't this feel like he had that flashy half season, and you're like, oh, Myjai Sanders and Cam Thomas, they are the future pass rush, who did nothing after that.
I know, and it's unfortunate, right? You just want to see these guys fail or succeed, and like you said, in health.
Right.
So to see that is, it's discouraging because, it's difficult for those guys to recover and make anything happen in situations like that. And, at the end of the day, it's just the reality of the game. It's a violent game, and sometimes, because like you've mentioned, other guys, even Will Hernandez, make it back, yet we forget how devastating so many of these injuries are for players.
Yeah. Coming up next on the Rise of Sierra podcast, the best our Cardinals talk on the web. Let's move on and talk about another injury that came after the start of camp. That's coming up next on Rise of Sierra. We're back on the Rise of Sierra podcast, the best our Cardinals talk on the web. Injuries, and funny how this is happening, that the two positions on defense where we felt they really, really had solidified their depth are now back to normal depth. The defensive line right now, they we talked about how there's 8 guys that deserve to be on an NFL roster, and at the most they're going to keep 7. And right now they're down to 6. The cornerback room, like when they drafted Will Johnson, we were like, why? Not only did they draft Will Johnson, they drafted Denzel Burke. So, they keep drafting cornerbacks. They keep drafting them. What is it? 5 cornerbacks in the last 3 years, basically. And we're like, oh, that they have guys. Then we find out Sean Murphy-Bunting is out for the season, and then Starling Thomas tears his ACL. Terrible for him personally, because and Jonathan Gannon said it, like that opened something up, because Star was going to be on our team. Star was going to make this team. He was going to have a role, and for Star, that's a contract year. Like he is as an undrafted rookie. This is year 3. He'd be a restricted free agent next offseason.
Right. I mean, I obviously, like you said, a restricted free agent, but yeah, this was the year, man. Like he was going to have a chance to get paid. And you talked about it, right? You got Garrett Williams in 2023. You've got Max Melton. You got Elijah Jones and Jaden Davis, who also went on the list.
Yeah.
And then like you said,
I will say this. I had zero belief
I
in
know,
Jaden Davis.
But I mean, he was a draftee still, right? And
yes.
then like you said, Will Johnson and Denzel Burke this year, like the effort's been put into the position, and you're like, okay. And so then all of a sudden you're like, holy crap. Look at all of these names and bodies that they're throwing at the position, and it's like, all right, next man up. And so this does something for 2 guys, right? It does something for Keitrell Clark, but it also does something for last year's 3rd round pick and kind of that flyer they took on Elijah Jones.
Yeah.
Because the reports at camp before Starling went down was that Elijah was kind of struggling, and there was a chance that he could not make it. And so all of a sudden you get Jones, and man, it's going to be really interesting to see how that cornerback room fills out, because I joked about it a little bit, but the truth is, like, the veteran in that room is Garrett Williams now, right? Like,
that's just crazy.
And before that, though, it was the undrafted Starling. Like, it's just crazy that how young they were, and now.
Yes. Yeah, and what's interesting is because it felt like before Star went down, they had 4 cornerback locks for the roster, where they might keep that probably 5, maybe 6, and now somebody, and the fact that Keitrell Clark is coming on strong. Jonathan Gannon loves Keitrell Clark, by the way, Louisville guy. He was his baby, basically. But it's really kind of interesting, because now the Cardinals are going to have a very young, because you got Garrett Williams, you got Max Melton, and now that, we wondered about what the playing time was going to look like because last year they basically had a rotation of 3 outside corners playing outside, where Star and Sean Murphy-Bunting were the clear starters, but Max Melton still played a lot. He played 565 snaps. That was less than what Murph and less than what Star played, but he was definitely part of the rotation. It's not like how you normally have your cornerbacks that just always play. They made sure the Melton played. And entering this year, even after the injury to Murphy-Bunting, you're like, there's still 4 guys. So were they going to have Star and Melton, or Star and Johnson? Was Melton going to come off the bench again and rotate in? Now it's Garrett Williams starts, and Max Melton and Will Johnson. And what's the most interesting development is now Garrett Williams, which I think we've been waiting for. He just Byron Murphy'd his way into playing outside corner, where if you believe, like a lot of people, that's going to be really, really good, because we didn't really see it beforehand in the offseason. Garrett Williams said that was always the plan, to get him to play more outside, but they hadn't done it. As soon as Star gets hurt, guess who's the two base cornerbacks? It was, Max. I can't remember if it was Max or Will with Garrett Williams. He was in base rather than playing nickel. And this is very much what is it, 21-21, 2022 with Byron Murphy, where they always saw him slot. But because of injury, he had to play outside, and he had his best year. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, and we'll see how it works out and like where it goes, and even if it ends up just being, Will Johnson and Max Melton and Garrett Williams, and they're kind of interchangeable in that trio. It's exciting to see the young guys getting a chance and see how that goes, because overall that's kind of all we're really looking for is it's these guys to step up and really become what we're hoping they can be.
Yeah, and that's that. And then of course be the battle behind the three. So is it Elijah Jones? Is it Denzel Burke? Is it Keitrell Clark? Like those three guys, and there's other cornerbacks, but what's interesting is that I know some people weren't real happy with how the Cardinals responded to both Jaden Davis and Star Thomas going down by not going and acquiring a starter-ish type guy. Instead, they got a Gilmore. No, not that one. It's not Stephon Gilmore. It's Stephen Gilmore, his little brother, and then a guy named Kenai Lovely, who played in the UFL. And people are like, well, that's how you respond. Well, honestly, why would they go out? Why would they go out and try and get a starter guy when they already feel they have three starters? Basically, they felt they had four guys who were going to play, and now they have the three, and you haven't seen whether they're going to fail yet. And so probably those vet corners are going to be around later. And so if things don't go well, or if there's another injury, then you have the opportunity to go get someone different. So I didn't have a problem at all with how they signed basically back of the roster cornerbacks that they're going to play in the preseason, and at best they're going to get the practice squad. But I'm interested to see who, because they'll probably, I'm thinking 5 cornerbacks is probably what it's going to be. Who makes the cut? Is it going to be Jones, Burke, or Keitrell that doesn't make it? That's going to be interesting to me.
Yeah, and that's going to be interesting to see where they decide they're going to invest in, and who wins those battles. And as you said at the beginning, do they need to go get a veteran? People get so over, like, oh, they got to go do this, or it's like, hey, they can also let it play out and then do something. Like the outcry for Will Hernandez, right? Like, oh, he's healthy, go sign him. And you and I talked about it. It's like, that's a signing you make after probably preseason game 2, right? If not preseason game 3. Like, this is a dude that's been in the system for 2 years and all of that. It's super interesting how everybody wants the young guys to play, but they also don't want to give them any time.
And so we talked about this maybe, and Isaiah Adams seems to be doing well. And so the plan, I guess, although like I've pointed this out, I pointed out to multiple times that they clearly have not closed the door on Will Hernandez, because they didn't assign his number 76 to anyone else, and definitely could have, because Hayden Connor, their 6th round pick, wore number 76 all through college. It's like they probably told him, you can't have 76 because Will might come back. And so that's something to watch, but that's more of a, if we go all the way back, I think it was 2015 when they had AQ Shipley was lined up to be the center to start with, and they had like Mike Gibson too. Lyle Sendline hadn't been signed, and they brought him back for, I can't remember if it was 2014 or 2015. They re-signed him during training camp. They're like, we have these centers, but Lyle, can you come back and play one more year? And that might be kind of the plan for that, and or at least unless Will gets signed elsewhere. But
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
like,
And that's the thing. I get people are like, oh, you got to sign Will. But do you think Will is going to sign back without a guarantee of being the starter? Like he's not going to come back when he knows that in 3 weeks uh there's going to be probably what, 7 teams looking for a veteran guard. So like
exactly.
why would either side make the move now? If they make the move now, you basically are saying like, hey, we're done with Isaiah Adams, right? Like
exactly.
he's so bad, we got to get rid of him.
Yeah. And coming up next on the Rise of Sierra podcast, Best Our Cardinals Talk on the Web, one of the position battles doesn't seem to be much of a position battle. That's coming up next on Rise of Sierra. We're back on the Rise of Sierra podcast, Best Our Cardinals Talk on the Web. Last show, we talked about the position battles we were looking at, and one of them we were staring at was at inside linebacker because we had questions. Okay, who's gonna play Mike? Is Mack Wilson gonna play with his position that he did before, allowing to do that versatility, be able to rush off the edge? Is he gonna move to Mike? Who's gonna play next to him? Oh, apparently that question was already answered. And I think this was the result of, I'm sure the reporters all saw it and just didn't say anything about it because they couldn't. Mack Wilson is the Mike. He has taken, and that's the main reason why I wondered this last year when they signed Mack Wilson, if by signing Mack Wilson, the plan was to have him replace Kaiser. And that's what he's done. So he's moved over because when he came out of college, Mack Wilson was he was a Mike. He's a big, strong, intelligent, physical Mike linebacker. And now he gets back to that. He hasn't done it in a while. And he gets that full-time role. He's going to be on the field every time. He's not new to the defense. And so I guess you get some continuity that way. And so that job is locked up, and it's the other one. So is it going to be Akeem Davis-Gaither, or is it going to be Cody Simon? Is it going to be Owen Papo? All of them have been getting looks. But when that finally came to light, how surprised and what's your belief level in Mack Wilson as the defensive leader?
I'm always confident in the middle linebacker because I've said it for 3 years now. What he did with TJ Edwards at Philly, and what we've seen with like Zach Bond in Philly, like you don't have, like, yes, if you can have the luxury and you're picking late in the first round, yeah, it's fine to grab a off-ball linebacker. But again, you look at the guys, Bobby Wagner, Fred Warner, the guys that have been the best Mike linebackers over the last 5-7 years. They're all day 2 and beyond picks, and the reason why, we talk about Zach Bond was a 3rd round pick. I think Mack was a 3rd round pick, and he was moved from the team that drafted him. Sometimes it's about spot, sometimes it's about opportunity, sometimes it's about scheme, right? And so Mack is an athletic, physical playmaking type of guy. If that's if Rallis and Gannon see that as a positive, that's a great thing.
Who do you think is going to end up taking that other spot? Is it going to be the athletic freaking Papo? Is it going to be Cody Simon? Is that going to be Davis-Gaither, the guy they basically gave the Kaiser White contract, 2 years, $10 million?
Yeah, and I think it's still going to be Davis-Gaither, right? Like I still see it. But like I said, man, I think Cody Simon's one of those weird guys that just has some innate linebacker playing ability, and we'll see how it all shakes out. It could be a rotational situation where you see Cody Simon in base and Akeem Davis-Gaither, especially early in the season, coming in, Akeem Davis-Gaither coming in on passing downs, right? Where his speed and ability to play in coverage is utilized best.
And they had Papo doing that last year. Now, the Cardinals do have two nickel packages. Their big nickel, they only use one off the ball linebacker, and they keep their 5-man front. They go with 3 D linemen, 2 edge, and then just Mack on the field, just like we did at Kaiser. And the reason why why they're able to do that, is because they have Budda Baker, who can play like a linebacker in that sense in the box. But then they also have their traditional when they drop the nose tackle and they go with a 4-man run front and 2 off the ball backers. And what we did see last year from that is that Owen Papo got some looks like that, and well, actually that's not true. Papo was in on their NASCAR package, so he was one of the 5 linebackers that would be in the game with the 1 down lineman. So I'm interested. I'm guessing Davis Gaither, but I wouldn't rule out Owen Papo or Cody Simon. Although I think what we'll probably see this year, that it's going to be more like a year from now, that they're kind of like Cody Simon's Ohio State career. He's going to have to wait, and then he's going to shine.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. I mean, and again, what Papo's done as a 5th round pick, that's fine. Like, again,
yeah,
you hope
he's
to
had a role on special teams, and you don't feel bad about that. So, like, he's on the roster, he's doing stuff,
right? And if you get something out of 5th round picks, you're just happy, right? I'm just excited to see how all this unfolds overall.
Yes.
Because it's
we
super
still
interesting.
Preseason games, we know there's going to be other injuries, whether they're small injuries or long injuries. That's 100% going to play into how they roster this team. Coming up next on the Rise Receiver Podcast, Best Our Cardinals Talk Away. Last segment, some odds and ends. What other takeaways are we getting from what we've seen in camp? That's coming up next on ISFC Red. We're back on the Rise of Seared podcast. Best Our Cardinals Talk on the web. We've talked about the injuries. We've talked about the decision to put Mack Wilson at the Mike linebacker. Other things that were taken away from camp so far, I think the most important thing is that Marv looks the part. Like, one, he's bigger. Trey Benson, by the way, put on weight as well. He's up in the mid 220s, which is, you add the bulk to the guy that's got breakaway speed. That could be fun. But Marv has been great in camp. He's looked every bit. I guess, hasn't he basically looked the way we all hoped he would have looked as a rookie right now?
Yeah, and that's the thing. People got out over their skis again. And I'm not gonna, come on here and say like, oh, Marv is gonna be an all-pro. Like, there's only 3 all-pro wide receivers. Like, again, Larry Fitzgerald's going to be a Hall of Famer, and he was a first-team all-pro wide receiver 1 time his entire career. Like, that's a really, really hard thing to do. However, like, these guys and when guys don't put up historic or record-breaking numbers, people get like they just like turn to this like, oh, doom and gloom. It's like, no, I mean, some rookies can have above average rookie seasons and still be on the growth. Now, if he ends up, coming out and only producing 900 yards and 8 touchdowns, and he's a high end wide receiver too, yeah, that's definitely disappointing for the 4th overall pick. But again, we're scaling now to like, is he a bust? Absolutely not. Like, a bust is a guy that wouldn't be in the league still. He just didn't live up to the expectations and the hype. But if he comes out this year and puts up, 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns, like, are we gonna, like, is the, oh man, I freaked out too quick, gonna be as loud as the, oh, he, they should have taken Neighbors, they should have taken Brian Thomas Jr. It's like, oh, stop.
Well, and I've said this on every radio appearance, every podcast appearance that I've like, no, I expected more from Marv. However, just look at the 3 rookie guys last year who absolutely killed it: Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, and Ladd McConkey. Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas were on terrible teams that had no other offensive threats. They were the guys. Ladd McConkey was the only capable receiver the Chargers had last year. Marvin Harrison played in a run-first offense with Trey McBride, who got 111 catches. we wanted him, and there were definitely plays. There were plays left on the field. There were disappointment. There were times where he looked like a rookie, but he had in how much more production could he have had in that season? He wasn't going to get the number of targets, and we've talked about the usage. His usage was not creative. And what was it? At or behind the line of scrimmage, he had exactly 0 targets. Is that the stat that you gave me a few times?
Yeah.
That's not even trying to get him the ball. Like with a guy like him, wouldn't it make sense, especially with his run at the catch ability, his size? Would it make sense just to give him a wide receiver screen a couple of times and let him see what he can do? They didn't do that.
Yeah, why can't we just get him into a rhythm? I mean, and again, it was funny, to this extent. I was talking to one of my coaches today that I coach with, and it's so early. We're technically not even practicing. It's just extended camp because you can't practice till August 4th and blah blah blah. And anyways, the kid that runs the best routes and has the best hands, we threw a little bubble screen to, and you're like, yeah, that's not his skill set. Somehow gets open a lot, catches everything, makes me look fast. And you're just like, it hasn't hit, that freshman to sophomore spurt yet. And he's only an 8th grader coming in to 9th grade. So, not unexpected. And so it's got work to do. But then you have this explosive kid that can take the top off the defense and can't catch a cold. It's okay, so we reverse those roles a little bit, right? Get him the stuff that's short. Maybe he'll be able to catch the ball and use that explosiveness. And that's the thing is sometimes coaches look at things and they go, well, this is how it should work. And it's okay, but it's not. So let's do something different. And that's the job as a coach, right? Like I said, that highlight today of Marv, don't get me wrong, catch was spectacular, right? Everybody's raving about the catch because it was excellent. But it was the usage. It was him in the slot on the interior of the trips, and then they motion Higgins, and now he's in the middle slot in a trips cluster, forcing a safety or a linebacker to have to make a decision. Okay, am I going to cover him or am I going to acquiesce to a corner? And then, we're going to put ourselves in a lever, a negative leverage position where we're just outmanned. And then Marv beat Garrett Williams on that play. And it's that is, all of that's great. And that's what's getting us excited. But it's they're figuring out how to actually use him now. Because last year it was hey, we drafted T. Higgins. It's no, you didn't draft T. Higgins. Why are you using this guy like he's T. Higgins? Why are 40+% of his targets 50-50 back shoulder balls? Why are we not letting this guy catch the ball and make plays? And exactly. I'm not saying you had to spam things, and this is no shot at Malik Neighbors, but the Giants did to Malik Neighbors, where he's catching 5 passes a game behind the line of scrimmage, right? We don't have to go that far.
Right. But that's the sort of thing that you do when you have playmakers, right? You mix those in. The Cardinals did that with Fitz. They would do 1 or 2 wide receiver screens every single game. Almost in the first quarter.
And he gained 8 yards, maybe 12 yards on a big one. It wasn't he was taking it to the house. And I think that's where all of this gets locked up, right? People go, oh crap. This isn't a big play. It's no, but it's a rhythm play. It gets everybody kind of settled. It allows people to kind of get going. Why can't that be a play in the playbook? Like you say, especially early, hey, let's just get him something easy. And that was my biggest beef with Petzing last year, is when he admitted, he's oh, we're not giving Marv easy layups. It's okay, but why not? They're called layups for a reason. Don't you want layups? Let's take a layup every once in a while, and then we can go to the hard stuff.
Yeah. Other takeaways is, as I've expected, Zay Jones looks good. I don't know how the usage will end up, but I think that he will end up being a quietly nice addition. And as long as he doesn't get hurt or doesn't have another suspension, that you're going to see him used and be more productive than the 8 catches that he had last year. But, Gannon has been very, like, since they brought him, like, they like him. He can play all the positions, and he's big and he's fast. He gives them, like, when he's on the field and they can put either Marv or Wilson in the slot, that gives them, and then you add Trey McBride, you've got 4 pass catchers on the field, all at 6'2" and higher, which is a different element than when you get with Greg Dortch there in the slot. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but they're all more accomplished downfield receivers. And plus Zay's got side, he's got breakaway speed, he's fast. And so that I'm interested in that. Other than that, I mean, Jacoby Brissett looks like he should. Kyler looks in rhythm. Other than that, it's been pretty like.
Well, and you can't tell anything about the run game in training camp because, one, they're
it's full contact, but it's not full tackle.
Right, they're going hard, but they're not because they're buddies and they ain't trying to hurt each other. And I will say that the thing that I'm most interested in is what the rotation along the defensive front looks like. And once we start to see that play out, it's going to be more interesting to me than, like we said, like you can't glean a ton from this right now.
Right. And with that, we will wrap up this edition of the Rise Up Here podcast, the best of Cardinals talk on the web. We'll be back probably later in the week to do another show talking about what's going on in camp. And then next week, we've got preseason games to look up. That wraps up this edition of the show. That's Seth Cox. I'm Jess Root. Thanks for listening. As always, we will be back again soon.
Thanks for listening to the latest edition of the Rise Up, See Red podcast. Listen to previous episodes and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Audioboom, or many other podcast platforms so shows are delivered directly to your mobile device. Please give the show a 5-star rating and always support the sponsors who support the show. We'll be back soon for the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Rise up, Red Sea, be Red, See Red, and of course, Rise up, See Red.
Roll!